In a stunning reversal today, the Attorney General of the United States announced that he will take control of the new federal prosecution of Jeffrey Epstein, a friend of Donald Trump's, an old friend of Donald Trump's, who has been charged with sex trafficking of young girls in federal court in New York City. After the dramatic surprise arrest of Jeffrey Epstein by the FBI when his private plane landed in New Jersey from Paris, and after Jeffrey Epstein was dragged into federal court in Manhattan on Monday, pleaded not guilty, and was ordered held without bail by a federal judge. After all of that, Attorney General William Barr was asked about the biggest new criminal case in the Justice Department yesterday, the Jeffrey Epstein case, and the Attorney General very clearly said this.
I'm recused from that matter because one of the law firms that represented Epstein long ago was a firm that I subsequently joined for a period of time.
That was yesterday. Today, the Attorney General said nothing about the Jeffrey Epstein case, but the Attorney General did order an unnamed Justice Department official to leak to selected news media that the Attorney General will not recuse himself from the new Jeffrey Epstein case. Bloomberg reported the news this way. Attorney General William Barr won't recuse himself from involvement in the new charges filed against alleged sex trafficker Jeffrey Epstein by federal prosecutors in New York. According to a Justice Department official, Barr made the decision on Tuesday after consulting with career ethics officials at the department, said the official, who asked not to be identified discussing a sensitive matter. But Barr has recused himself from any retrospective review of the Justice Department's decision more than a decade ago, letting Epstein avoid prosecution on federal sex trafficking offenses in Florida. It is impossible for William Barr to recuse himself from a review of what happened in the sex trafficking case against Jeffrey Epstein in Florida, because that is a central part of Jeffrey Epstein's defense in the new case. One of Epstein's lawyers told the judge at his arraignment yesterday that the deal Jeffrey Epstein made with federal prosecutors in Florida means that Jeffrey Epstein cannot now be charged by federal prosecutors in New York. Attorney Reed Weingarten told the judge in Manhattan that the Florida deal will be a central part of Epstein's defense. He said that the Florida deal was, quote, a global resolution of the federal charges against Jeffrey Epstein. And so the Attorney General is not telling the truth. What is the Attorney General afraid of? Why didn't the Attorney General himself announce his new position on recusal today, since he publicly said yesterday that he was recused from the case? Why is the Attorney General afraid of explaining this publicly himself? Why is the Attorney General insisting that the Justice Department official who leaked the information not even be named in the news reports? Why did this new position on recusal have to be leaked and not delivered to all of the news media in a written press release? What is William Barr up to? What is he afraid of? That is the question tonight in the Jeffrey Epstein case. And as we reported at this hour last night, the Attorney General has an even stronger reason to recuse himself than the one he mentioned yesterday. Attorney General Barr's father hired Jeffrey Epstein to be a math teacher at the Dalton School on the Upper East Side of Manhattan when the Attorney General's father was the headmaster of that elite and very expensive private school. William Barr's father hired Jeffrey Epstein to teach high school boys and high school girls, even though Jeffrey Epstein is not even a college graduate. That is now, and was then, unthinkable in a school like Dalton. A year later, William Barr's father abruptly resigned from the Dalton School after the Board of Trustees decided to investigate the way William Barr's father was running that school. And not long after that, Jeffrey Epstein left the school and started his new life on Wall Street. Should the Attorney General of the United States be supervising a prosecution of a criminal defendant who was hired by and worked for the Attorney General's father? The Attorney General first recused himself yesterday, then unrecused himself today, and is not telling the whole truth and nothing but the truth about his multiple recusal decisions. As we so often say in the world of Donald Trump, we have never seen anything like this. No Attorney General of the United States has ever made a series of recusal decisions like this. Joining our discussion now, Mimi Roker, former Assistant U.S. Attorney in the Southern District of New York, and Zerlina Maxwell, Senior Director of Progressive Programming at SiriusXM Radio. Both are MSNBC contributors. And Mimi, I was hoping we could have you here tonight because you're a veteran of the Southern District of New York, the district that brought this prosecution against Jeffrey Epstein, where suddenly the Attorney General has flipped in a day and decided he does want to be involved in it. What do you make of yesterday's statement by the Attorney General on recusal and today's leak that he's not recused from the new Epstein case?
I'm very wary. And you ask all the right questions and are highlighting all of the things about this that just send up, red flags. First of all, why, if Bill Barr says, I'm going to recuse because of my connection to Kirkland & Ellis, which was the law firm at which Jay Lefkowitz, who was one of Epstein's main attorneys, back negotiating that sweetheart slap-on-the-wrist plea deal that Epstein got from Acosta back in Florida. So it's not just that, Barr was affiliated with a law firm. It's a law firm that was really at the center of this controversy.
But Barr says he wasn't at the law firm at the time of this case.
Okay, but, you join a law firm. I mean, was Lefkowitz there? Is he friends with Lefkowitz? Right. It's not just any law firm. It's not, I don't think that anyone who's worked at any law firm ever. But in this case, the relationship, the role of Jay Lefkowitz and that law firm with Acosta and that plea. I mean, there's a meeting between Acosta and Lefkowitz off-site during these plea negotiations that is so highly inappropriate, so much at the center of, where Lefkowitz basically gets an agreement from Acosta not to tell the victims about the plea. And he follows up with an email. I mean, that's how we know about it, where he says, thank you for your agreement, Mr. Acosta, U.S. Attorney, to not tell the victims about this plea deal. So Barr's connection to that law firm is problematic. I'm not sure it was mandatory recusal, but he said he was going to recuse because of that. To now draw this artificial line and say, well, I'm recused from that Florida part, as you point out, but not the part going forward, as a completely artificial line that all of a sudden is drawn the day after this, bombshell case comes out from the Southern District of New York that I'm sure is making Donald Trump, amongst others, very nervous, and his buddy Epstein for sure, because it's a strong case. And so it just looks so bad. And the bottom line is, when you have an attorney general that you can't trust is defending justice and looking out for the Department of Justice, that's where this problem really comes to light. We cannot have faith in Bill Barr, and that's where his whole history so far is now just, coming to the fore.
So, Zerlina, Bill Barr's father,
yes,
his father hired Jeffrey Epstein, who he knew was not a college graduate. Jeffrey Epstein took a couple of college courses in physics, and he hired him at one of the most expensive private schools in Manhattan to teach math, knowing he wasn't a college graduate. Bill Barr knows tonight that his father hired Jeffrey Epstein. He may have known it at the time that his father hired Jeffrey Epstein. He may have known Jeffrey Epstein at that time. We don't know.
We don't know.
But he's not recusing himself because of that.
Well, the thing that's so weird to me is not in isolation that he hired him without, the requisite experience. It's that, sexual predation of this type, it's not something that starts when you're 35 or 45, right? So if that's consistent and holds here, and obviously the prosecution yesterday made an eloquent presentation sort of explaining some of this, he probably had some of these behaviors that folks were aware of at the time. So the fact that you're hiring someone with no experience who has this type of predation towards teenage girls, at least that we know of, we don't know about the boys, but we at least know that he has the predation towards teenage girls and is trafficking girls, according to the paperwork filed yesterday. That's what bothers me. It's not hiring an experienced person. Maybe he just had great relationships. People get jobs all the time. It's the fact that he's a predator and you're placing him with potential victims, and nobody's stepping in to say, wait, hold up, this person, we need to do more research on this person and do a background check. And then you see this persist for decades. I think that, we've learned a lot in the Me Too era about enablers. We've learned a lot about the fact that people are not predatory in isolation, that there are people around that individual that are allowing it to continue, whether it be assistants to Jeffrey Epstein who are, or young women who are going out to recruit additional victims. There's a circle of people that all need to be held accountable, and not just Jeffrey Epstein. And I think Bill Barr's father is in that group, and I think Donald Trump and his associates are in that group. So I'm sure Donald Trump may be nervous today, but I'm sure the people who hang out with Donald Trump are also nervous today.
Mimi, we're going to squeeze in a break here quickly, but on Barr and his father, you're the Attorney General of the United States. Let's imagine a situation in which a defendant like this eventually decides he's going to tell everything. For whatever reason, may or may not develop, he's going to tell everything. And that story begins when he's a high school teacher at the high school where your father hired him. And you are now the unrecused Attorney General of the United States who's supervising that prosecution.
Well, I mean, if that develops factually, I mean, that would be an unwaivable, insurmountable conflict. I mean,
But recusal is about getting out before the conflict arises, right?
No, absolutely. And that is why, I mean, whether he needs to or not, because of the law firm, because of what his father did, he should get out. He said he was going to get out, and it is very suspicious to me that all of a sudden, the day after this bombshell case, oh, no, I'm not out from this. And it just looks bad, and part of recusal is about giving people faith in this justice system.
One more quick thing. It's entirely possible that William Barr discovered this prosecution the same time the rest of us did. It's entirely possible that the Southern District did not alert him, and so he wasn't in a position to stop it before the arrest and the arraignment.
Exactly.
Thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on the button below for more from The Last Word and the rest of MSNBC.